So I watch a lot of videos here on YouTube about adding to your stockpile and making sure that you have enough food and the different things you ought to have in your pantry and your larder and your long-term storage and all of those kinds of things, especially with the way things are right now, where there's supply chain issues and there's shortages and inflation and all of that. So I hear a lot about that. But what I don't hear a lot of is how to make the best use of the food that we already have. Things like leftovers and making sure that we're a good steward of the items that we've purchased, making sure that we use them fully, making sure that we don't waste anything. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I want to talk to you about a specific thing, and that is scrap saving and how we have been scrap saving in order to save money and be a good steward of the food that the Lord has given us. Back when Ty and I were first married about 26 years ago, my grocery budget was $20 a week for the two of us, and frugality just kind of came naturally. We were poor, starving college students, and I needed to make every bit of food count and every bit of food stretch for that $20 a week budget. As time progressed, we had more kids. Obviously, my husband got a better job, and I didn't really pay as close attention to the food budget as I had before. And I also found that I became a little more wasteful. I was willing to throw away that full gallon of milk that was due that day. I was willing to throw out leftovers that the kids just didn't seem to be eating. And I just became more wasteful, I guess you could say. And I'm not really proud of that. I'm really actually bothered that I didn't retain a lot of that frugality that I had early on in our married years. But with inflation rising and the cost of groceries going up, and energy costs and all of that, I have found myself once again going back to my roots and looking for ways to be less wasteful and make sure that I'm using all the scraps of food to the best of my ability, not letting anything go to waste if I can help it. I have to be very creative in order to do this. I can't just mindlessly let food just kind of sit in the refrigerator. I do have to kind of think about things and figure out what to do with them. But I want to show you some of the systems that I have in place in order to save scraps and what I do with those particular scraps. First off, I have a mason jar. Actually, I have 2 or 3 mason jars in my freezer, and you can see this is completely frozen over. But if you look in there, this is leftovers. These are scraps of lots of different things. This is my shepherd's pie mason jar. Now, originally I had started out with the idea that I would make stew out of all of these leftovers. So let's say here at the bottom, I think are green beans. The kids didn't eat all the green beans. I knew they weren't going to finish them off. I dumped them into the mason jar, put them in the freezer, and I thought I would fill this up with items and then make stew. Well, the very first time I did this, that's exactly what I did. I added some broth, I added some seasonings, and I put the entire jar, once I had filled it up with different scraps, I put the entire jar into a pot and I made stew with it, and the kids didn't like it. So the next day, rather than throwing it out and saying, well, that was a bust, the next day, I thickened it up a bit, I added a few more things to it, I put it in a 9x13 or a 10x15, I'm not sure. We do a lot of 10x15 because of the size of our family. Put it in a casserole dish, and I spread that out, and then I added instant mashed potatoes and cheese, and that was it. I do keep boxes of instant mashed potatoes on hand, even though I can't stand instant mashed potatoes. I do keep them on hand. My family will eat them. And I do that in order for a quick meal just like this. So I put that into the casserole, added the cheese and the mashed potatoes, and my kids gobbled it up. So basically I made a shepherd's pie out of it, and I decided from then on, the kids liked it so much that these would become shepherd's pie jars, not stew jars. Now you can do whatever you want to do, whatever you think your family will eat best, but shepherd's pie with the instant mashed potatoes on the top and some cheese, the kids loved it. So what I do now is I usually just add whatever I have. At the top of here is some brown rice. I see some meat in there, the green beans. I know previously I've had some black beans in there. I mean, it is a hodgepodge of stuff. And usually it takes a couple of jars to make a full casserole. And that's what I'll do. Throw the instant mashed potatoes on it, throw it in the oven. The kids love it. So that is one way to use up little bits of leftovers that you have in your refrigerator that nobody's eating, or you have just a little bit left. You know, with a large family, if I have like a quarter cup of corn left in the pot, nobody's gonna eat that. That's not enough to do anything with. So throw it in the jar, throw it in the freezer. And then when you have enough, make your shepherd's pie. Another thing I do, because it's something that my mom always did as well, is I take bananas that have started to kind of brown and nobody's really wanting to eat them. I throw those into a freezer bag and we make banana bread with them. However, I've also noticed that I have some kids who like to just pull these out of the freezer and snack on them frozen. So this bag actually had like 10 bananas in it, and my kids have eaten those down. I will link down in the description the banana bread recipe that we use. It's a large family banana bread recipe. It is very, very popular on the blog, and it makes a nice big batch and a great way to use up bananas. So that is one way that we have made use of, you know, these bananas that are just going brown and nobody wants to eat them. They're great for banana bread, banana muffins, banana cake, whatever you might want to do with the bananas, or put them in there and your kids can start snacking on them like they're popsicles. One last scrap saving thing that I do that goes into the freezer is I keep a bag of bread. These are just pieces of bread that are either the heels off of a loaf that nobody wants, they're a random leftover hot dog bun and we're out of hot dogs. It's just things like that that I then tear into, toast size. Like this is a hot dog bun here and I just tore it up. And I've got like, this is a piece of bread and I just kind of made it into a toast size slice, something that would be nice to have with a salad. And then what I do is I get a bag full of these and then I lay out parchment paper on a cookie sheet or a jelly roll pan. And then I toss the bread pieces with butter, Parmesan cheese, and garlic salt. And I just toss that in a bowl and then I lay it out on that parchment and I bake it at about 325 for about 20-ish minutes. And I end up with a nice toasted garlic bread that can be eaten with salads, with spaghetti, with whatever. People love it around here. And it's just a great way to use up those scrap pieces of bread that are kind of laying around. You're afraid they're getting close to their date. They might start to get moldy if you don't watch it. And like I said, those random hot dog or hamburger buns that just kind of sit in the refrigerator and you don't know what to do with them, throw them into a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer. And then when you have enough, make some garlic toast. Okay, so the girls are gonna help me share about one last scrap saving thing that we have been doing, and that is our green onions. Girls, you wanna grab that jar right there, and Mercy, you can take this one. Okay, so these are onions that I got at the store, and they started to wilt as soon as I brought them in, so I just put them into a jar to keep them going pretty well. These, on the other hand, are green onions that I already cut off. I left a little bit of the bottom of it rather than cutting all the way down. Usually I would cut that to the roots and I would use the entire green onion, but if you leave just like an inch above those roots from the store-bought green onions, you can actually regrow them in a jar of water and just keep cutting them off, and they go for quite some time so that you continue to have green onions in your salads, in your eggs. And we just come along with scissors and we just chop them into our eggs or our salad or whatever it is that we use green onions a lot. So whatever it is that we're making, we are usually adding green onions. You will see that the roots have really taken over this jar, and I do occasionally pour out some water and add some back in. I have a friend who says she never fills it all the way because she feels like it kind of ends up rotting it. I go to about here, this bottom line of this little jar. I think this might be some sort of jelly jar or something that I picked up along the way. And that's something that I have been doing as well. I remember Ty's granny had all of these, is it hard for you? The girls want to be in the video. So, hello girls. I remember Ty's granny kept all these jars and lids, and I thought, what in the world? I mean, she had so many. Well, she had grown up in the Depression era, and she kept those because you never knew when you might need them. And the funny thing is, I have found myself keeping random jelly jars and random jars that I've gotten, like pickles and things like that, and I'm keeping those more than I usually would because you can put dehydrated stuff in it. Oh guys, you're shaking my video. You can put dehydrated stuff in it. You can put things that you're just gonna put into the refrigerator in there, and it's really, really helpful. I don't wanna keep too many because I don't like a lot of clutter, but I have noticed that I am finding more purposes for the items that are coming into my house in jars and cans and such. We will show you one more thing. I keep meaning to do a video on this, but I was experimenting with it and I didn't like the experiment. So I will show you though. Mercy was just spraying down the microgreens for me. You wanna show them how you spray them, Mercy? You don't have to look at the camera the whole time. You can look at this. Why don't you look at this? There you go. So my kids love to do this. I start these in a jar. I start these in a jar with a sprouting lid, just a regular mason jar. And then once they've gotten to about this, I lay them out in this screen. And then the kids, whenever they think about it, they just come by and they spray them. And then at this point, my kids usually start eating them because you can see there's greens there. The kids absolutely love these. And then I just start another batch. Oh, Aspen's gonna show you how much she loves microgreens. Okay, so that just gives you a few ideas of how I'm saving scraps and making use of them so that we aren't wasting any food here in our household. Hopefully that'll give you some ideas. I would also love to hear some of your scrap saving ideas because I really think it's important that we learn from each other during this time where we can figure out ways to be economical in our homemaking and in our grocery shopping and just do well with what we've been given. Okay, it is time for me to get back to homeschooling my little ones, so I will see you next time here on the Raising Arrows channel.